Okay, so what we're doing with this is the second part of the series of the Mysteries Revealed, and we're going to go through the themes of the book of Bereshit, Genesis. There are a lot of amazing things that are going on. So let's try to recap a part of the story we're up to now. We are going to the part of the children of Rivka and Yitzchak, of Rebecca and Isaac. Okay. We all know they have two children, right? They have Jacob, Yaakov, and Esau. And I want to go through that story a little bit, try to understand. Okay, we've heard the story before. I'm just going to repeat those who maybe haven't, but the basic storyline we all know. The storyline is that we have Isaac marries Rivka. She is pregnant now, and she has twins in her womb. She does not know that. She can't figure out exactly what's going on because she's having tremendous pain, birth pain, and she doesn't know what's happening. It turns out that she actually goes to the prophet Shem, and he tells her the problem. The problem is that she has twins, and what's happening is that every time she walks by a shul, the kahila or something like that, one of the children starts to run to come out. And when she goes by a house of idolatry, the other one wants to come out. And that's going to be the theme of Jacob, Yaakov, who wants to come out to go to shul, wants to come out to go to holy things. And Esau, his brother, was going to come out to go in the opposite direction. Okay, that's okay. Their children grow up. Esau comes out. He's a hairy beast. He's totally red. He's full of hair. The reason why he is Esau is the word asu. He's all finished. When he was born, he looked like an adult already. He was fully haired, from head to toe. He's like a completed person already. They called him Esau. He's finished already. He's done. Okay, so the two of them grow up. Esau turned out to be a tough cookie. He's doing terrible things, as we'll see in a little bit. And Jacob is very righteous, sitting and learning Torah. Okay, that we've seen before. Now it comes time to give the blessing of Isaac, so give the blessing now to his children, and Isaac decides to give the blessing to Esau. Now why is that? Simply put, is because Esau is fooling Isaac. Talmud tells us he was always asking questions, like he's a very righteous guy. Daddy, what do you do in this case? And I want to tithe the salt. Tithing salt? Wow, he must be a very, very righteous fellow. Who tithes salt? It's not even food. But so he fools Isaac by asking these questions as if he's very, very righteous. Isaac is blind now, and he's somehow duped, and he wants to give the blessings to Esau. What happens though? Rivka, his wife Rebecca, is told that no, this guy can't get the blessings, Esau. You have to have your son Yaakov go and take the blessings instead. Okay, I'm just reviewing the whole story. And as we know, the story goes that Yaakov comes in the famous story. We know there that he's I don't want to go in. My father's going to catch me lying. She says, "Don't worry about it." And she goes and she takes a sheep, and they put the hair from the sheep on his neck and on his arms. And he walks in, and the father's blind, and the father says, "Who are you?" And he says, "It's me, Esau, your eldest." And he thinks something's funny. He says, "Come, I want to feel you," because it doesn't sound right. Touches him, and then he believes that it really is Esau, and he gives him the blessing. And then Esau walks in as Yaakov walks out and says, "What happened here?" And he starts flipping out, and he screams, "Oh, Yaakov tricked me! He tricked me! How did he trick me? First, he stole my firstborn rights." That's the whole story of the day we had the lentils. We'll see what happened there. Yaakov was cooking lentils. He was cooking lentils, and Esau was very hungry. He said, "Give me some of that red stuff." Didn't even say what it was. Didn't care what it was. Give me that red stuff. Poured it into my mouth. And Yaakov said, "Fine, I'll give you this red stuff. You're very hungry, but sell your firstborn rights to me." And now Esau reveals to his father Isaac that he's been duped twice by Yaakov. Well, how? The first time he sold his first rights, and now Yaakov stole his blessings. And at that point, Yitzchak really realizes, we'll see what he realizes, but he says, yes, Yaakov is blessed, and we'll see the whole story afterwards. And then Esau wants to kill Yaakov. That's kind of the general background of the story. Okay? So now we have to try to get a little bit deeply here to some of the problems, because there's tons of problems here. Okay? The first problem is that Isaac is a prophet. Okay? Isaac's a prophet. Now, Yitzchak should therefore know what's going on with his son Esav. Is there any more? I want you to go to the first source. You don't have to, and then you can just listen. But the first source, those who want a source there, is like this. I won't even read it myself. I'll just say it out there. The first source is you know why Yaakov was cooking those red lentils on the day where he sold Esav the lentils in exchange for the birthright? What happened? It was the day that the grandfather, Avram, died. And the Talmud tells us he died 5 years early than he was supposed to, so he wouldn't see how bad Esav had become. Okay? He died 5 years early. The lentils that Jacob was making was in order to comfort the mourners. We do eggs today, but people do eggs in the world today, but lentils is also the classic thing. Lentils are eggs. Well, they know that's people do if they're mourning, they serve lentils or eggs. So he was making the lentils to serve to his father, Isaac, who is now mourning for his father, Abraham. What did Esav do on that day? On that day, it says that he went out and he raped a engaged woman. He killed a man. He denied God. Okay, he denied the afterlife, Chesed Mason. And he said, I don't want any of this stuff about serving God. And he said, just you take it. I don't want this the birthright. I don't want any of that stuff. That's who Esav was. He was a guy who was a murderer, a thief, a terrible guy. So the simple question is, how does Yitzchak not get it? I don't understand. He's not a prophet. How does he not understand? Someone help me with that. I have any idea how can he not get it when he's a prophet? Seems to be weird. Yeah, we say that Esav tricked him, but come on. People know their kids. And it's one thing if Esav was like, okay, a little bit off, maybe you wouldn't realize. But Esav's terrible. He's a murderer. He's a rapist, he's a thief. And Isaac the prophet's like, doesn't realize it? Weird. Now, I'm going to show you actually, though, that Isaac really did realize it.
I was going to just say, he did realize it. But he needed to be tricked for the...
Needed a reason.
He knew he needed to be tricked. Otherwise he would have, he could have felt that the sheepskin wasn't really hid.
He needed to be tricked. He was part of the whole scheme. That whole attitude of his, he knew what was going on, and he knew that he needed to be tricked, and he knew the blessing had to go to Yaakov.
But it means he really knew that wasn't Esav?
He played along.
It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like he knew, because you see in the text, he was shocked that he said, who is that person afterwards? He somehow is definitely tricked. Maybe it had to be a grander picture. It says in the Zohar, it says that God hid it from him in order that the blessing should come around on God's intent and not on Isaac's intent, whatever that means.
One thing is he was still the firstborn. And so, due to being the firstborn, Yitzchak didn't know that he had sold the firstborn, right? So that alone says he needs to give him the blessing. But if he may have also known that Yitzchak needed it more than Yaakov.
Right, we're going to see. It's one of the approaches. We're going to see in a second. Very good. I left the quotes here. I'll tell you outside, and if you want to go to the quotes afterwards where they are. There are certain ways you could tell that Isaac knew something was funny. First of all, if you want to look there in 26:34, so what happens is that Esav, it says, was like a chazir, it was like a pig. A pig is one of the four animals that have one kosher side, not the other one. Right? The pig's the only animal that has a kosher hoof, split hooves, but internally is not kosher, and that's called Esav. Esav sticks his paw out, says, "Look, I'm kosher," but he's a fake. So at 40 years old, he goes and he takes a wife, takes two wives there. His whole life he was just raping and pillaging. Now he says, my father got married, I got married at 40 also. He takes these wives, and now the next verse is that Yitzchak went blind. Why did he go blind? So one of the reasons is because these two wives, were constantly offering idolatrous incense. And as their idolatry was going on in that neighborhood, the smoke would go into Isaac's eyes and it blinded him. So I mean, if the guy's wives are blinding the father-in-law because of their idolatry, something should tell you something funny going on here. Right? So Yitzhak should just figure that out. He's blinded by their own idolatry. First of all. Second of all, when Isaac, the next source is, when Jacob comes in, so what happens is, he says, please, Father, sit. Please sit. And I will give you from the meal that I brought you. And when Isaac hears that, he says, who are you? Who are you? Who is that? The voice of Yaakov. Why? Because Esav never says, please sit. He says, get on, move, sit. And you see when Esav came in, he said, sit down, Dad. And Isaac says to the boy that comes in, how'd you make it so fast? He says, because God helped me that I was able to find the animal quickly. He says, that's not Esav. Esav doesn't say please. He doesn't say, God help me. That can't be Esav. Come, I want to feel you. Something funny going on here. So, Yitzhak already knows that Esav's not the kind of guy who says, please, and God help me. And then afterwards, when he tells Esav, in one of the verses here, to go and sharpen your knife and go out and catch me a catch. So the text says, it's a lot of extra words here. He says, sharpen your knife that you don't feed me non-kosher. And make sure you catch a catch. Don't go and steal something and feed it to me. I mean, that doesn't mean he thinks the guy's too good. He said, don't steal the food. Don't give me non-kosher food. And the text actually says that when Esav went out, he couldn't catch anything. All the animals were hiding from him. He ended up killing the dog and bringing the dog to his father. And he wasn't Korean. I mean, it's a delicacy in Korea. Now, look here in the next source, source 2. Lynette, don't look. We'll even open up the page. So here, those who want to look here. It's on it's in chapter 20. It's page 137. So now, Jacob has these skins on him, these sheep skins, and they're freshly, the animal was just shechted, it was just killed. The sheepskin is on him. How would that smell? How do you think that would smell? To smell sheepskins, freshly slaughtered sheepskin.
Yeah, it smells.
Not good.
Not too good. Not too good, right? It shouldn't smell too good. Now, so the text says, so there's the whole back and forth. He says, who are you? That doesn't sound like you're Esav. You're saying please and God, and it doesn't sound right. Come here. He feels him. And then he says, oh, the hands are the hands of Esav, but the voice is the voice of Yaakov. He's talking so nicely. Okay? Then he says to him like this, in verse 25. And Yitzhak said, verse 25, serve me and let me eat of my son's game, right, what he caught, that my soul may bless you. So he served him and he ate. And he brought him wine and he drank. Okay? Yitzhak's still a little bit suspicious what's going on here. Come on in. Yeah, come on in. Let's see. Good. More of these Malcolm, did you take them all?
What?
Did you take them all?
We'll share. Here.
I have to tell the truth, it was long.
So now, we'll sum up the questions in a second. So now what happens is, look here on page 136, verse 26, 137, verse 26. So now, Yitzchak is still thinking something's fishy, something's not right here. He says, then his father Isaac said to him, he says now to this person in front of him, who he thinks is really Esav, but he's a little suspicious now. He says, come close, if you please, and kiss me, my son. Brings him close. Okay? Next page, 139. Jacob drew close, so he drew close and kissed him. He smelled the fragrance of his garments, and he blessed them. He said, see the fragrance of my sons like the fragrance of a field which Hashem has blessed. Very funny. He's smelling these stinking, sheepskins. He said, oh, the smell of It's like when Tyler Shem and I, we weren't used to country living. We were in Israel, we went to a kibbutz, and we got up there, and it stinks. It's this fertilizer all up, and we can't breathe. We're gagging. And as we were holding our noses, the guy who's renting us the place comes over and says, "Ah, good country air." But, no, it's not. It's not good at all. But you get used to it, It's like, so Yitzhak smells the hairy thing. He says, what does it smell? Now, what did he smell? So different commentaries. It wasn't really obviously the smell of the sheepskin. So one commentary says somehow the fragrance of the Garden of Eden came in with Jacob, and he smelled that. He smelled something special. He sensed it. But I want to share with you a midrash that's an amazing midrash. The midrash says he smelled the smell of his clothes. Clothes in Hebrew is bigadav. Okay? But it could also be read, because the Torah is not written in vowels, it's written in bogdav. Bogdav is different than bigadav. Bogdav means his traders. Okay? And the Torah tells us the deeper meaning. So if you look in source 2 here, you could look at it or not, I'll just tell you what it says. But when I'm not using source either. So what happens is as this person comes in front of him, he's going to bless. He's not sure who it is now. What's known? Is it Esav or is it Jacob? What's going on? He smells traitors. That's the guy I want to bless. Scoundrels! You're my boy. What do you smell? What do you smell? He smells some of his clothes. The text says, he sent of his bogdav, i.e. traitors, like this person, Yosef Meshita. Yosef Meshita was a Jewish trader, and when the Romans came in to Israel and they destroyed the temple, they were afraid to go in. So what's going to happen? We can't go in. So they got a Jew. So let's get a Jew to go in, and he'll be the one who'll desecrate the temple, and that'll protect us. So they say to a Jew, hey, any traitors here? You can go into the temple. Whatever you pull out, you'll keep. So there was a Jewish guy, Yosef Meshita, who said, I'll go in. He went into the temple, he took out the menorah, the candelabra, and they said to him, listen, that's a little bit too good for you. We'll keep this. It's taxes. We'll take this stuff. And you go in again, and the second thing you get, you'll be able to keep. And this guy realized he did the wrong thing, says, I betrayed my God once, I won't do it again, and they ended up killing this guy and torturing him. Okay. But this guy, no happily ever after, right? But this guy was the person, or one of the people, that Isaac was smelling. He was ready to give the blessing to this person in front of him when he said, oh, traitors. So Isaac is not really fooled. On one hand, maybe he's fooled, but on the other hand, he's not really fooled because he knows that Esav never says please and thank you. He doesn't say God. He's gonna feed him non-kosher food, or he's gonna steal it, and then he smells traitors and gives the blessing. So I'm confused. Let's make the question 1 here. Does Isaac know that Esav is bad or not? And if he should know, he's a prophet, and he seems to know. If he knows, why did he give him the blessing? That's question 1. Okay? So I'll write it down here on the board. And that'll be question 1. Why bless Esav? Okay, that's question 1. According to Isaac's rationale, it's Esav, why give a blessing to him? Okay. Now, I want to show you the text a second. If you look here, right after the blessing happens, on the same page, in 139, right after the blessing happens, so in verse 30, it says, and it was when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely left from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esav his brother came back from his hunt. Okay? So as soon as Jacob leaves, comes in Esav. He too made delicacies and brought them to his father. He said to his father, let my father rise and eat. He didn't say please. Rise and eat. of his son's game, that your soul will bless me. So Isaac, his father, said to him, who are you? He said, I'm your firstborn Esau. Then Isaac trembled. Verse 33. In a very great perplexity, he said, where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? And I partook of all when you had not yet come, and I blessed him. Okay? Who was that guy before? And at that moment, something happens. Isaac realizes something happened. And that's Esau tells him, well, I sold my firstborn rights to him. And Isaac realizes something's funny. He says, this famous line here, indeed he shall remain blessed. Key issue. Because Isaac could have pulled it back at that point, and he doesn't. He realized something very, very deep at that point, and he says, okay, and he'll stay blessed. Now, listen to this, 34. When Esau heard his father's words, he cried exceedingly a great and bitter cry, and said to his father, bless me too, father. Give me a bracha too, bless me also. Look at this. 35, but he said, your brother came with cleverness and took your blessing. I can't give you a blessing. So Esau says in 36, that's why he's called Jacob. He outwitted me 2 times, right? One time he stole my firstborn rights, and now he took my blessing. He took my firstborn rights, the next page, 141, and see now he took away my blessings. Then he said, have you now reserved a blessing for me? Then you say, me a blessing, Dad? He says, Isaac answered and said to Esau, behold, a Lord have I made him over you. I made him in charge. For you, what can I do, my son? What can I give you? I made him your boss. Everything you get is his. That's a principle. If there's a slave and a master, everything that the slave gets goes to the master. I can't give you anything. There's nothing I can do for you. It's useless. Esau flips out. Verse 38. Esau to his father, have you only one blessing, father? Bless me too. And Esau cried. He raised his voice and he wept. Started crying. So Isaac his father answered and said to him, behold, the fatness of the earth shall be your dwelling, and the dew of the heavens from above. And he starts giving him a blessing. And on your sword you'll live, and etc., etc. Now, that little transaction is bizarre. Why is that bizarre? Someone help me out. What's weird about that? There's a lot of weird stuff about that.
Surely he could have given him a second blessing. He's not limited to one blessing.
Right.
He could have given him a second blessing.
Right? Now, let me ask you another question. He thinks this person that he gave the blessing to is who? Esau. Okay. Now, we understand that Esau sort of fooled him, or didn't fool him. But Jacob, everyone knew was a righteous person. So think about it. In Yitzchak's mind, he's giving the blessing to this person, and he's making the brother a slave. He thinks it's Esau. Why in the world would he not save anything for Jacob? Jacob was a good guy, according to everyone. Why in the world was Yitzchak doing this? Making one subservient to the other. And in his mind, he's putting Esau on top, and us, the Jewish people, we're cleaning the bathrooms. What's going on? At least saves, I don't understand. Don't you love both of them? Why just sell out Jacob according to your own rationale? It's bizarre. Any other question? It's a very serious question. What happened to Jacob? Okay? Let's go one more step here. So, and then we have Malcolm's question. Then he says, there's no other blessings? He says, no, I can't give you any more blessings because you're a slave to him. So what happens? Esau says, please, please, please. He says, okay, sure, here's no blessing. There's no a minute ago he says no blessings because you were a slave to him. How'd you get a blessing all of a sudden from the fat of the earth? Where'd that come from? Bizarre. Right? Want to hear that? We're going to hang. There's a couple more questions. We're going to be there. So why? But the question is, why not save? Not save for who? For Jacob something, right? For Yaakov. Another question is, where'd that blessing come from then? Where'd the blessing come from? Just because Esau begs for it? Okay. A couple more questions, and we're going to tie this thing together in a very, very deep way. Just hang in one more second for a couple more questions. We'll see the depth of this. At the end of the parasha, you can now look if you want, But at the end of the parsha, it has might as well look. Page 143. Okay? 143, verse 6. Verse 2. Verse 2. 143, verse 2. Isaac is sending Jacob off. He's telling him, go now and get married, find a wife. And he says, arise and go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethel, Betuel, your mother's father, and take a wife from there, from the daughters of Laban, and may Kel Shakai Hashem bless you, make you fruitful, and make you numerous, and make you a congregation of people. May he grant you the blessing of Abraham, to you and your offspring, with you, that you can possess the land of the sojourn that God gave Abraham. He gives him a blessing, the most important blessing he gives him now at the very end. You should go, the land of Israel will be yours, you'll be the Jewish people. Where the heck did this blessing come from? This blessing's coming out of everyone's pockets here, you know? 2 minutes ago there's no blessings. Asa says, please, 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 is a blessing. And now, when he's leaving, all of a sudden, this blessing's falling out of everyone's shirts. It's bizarre, right? Where did this blessing come from? How did this get in there? So the last blessing of Abraham, of the land of Israel, the land, where is that from? 3 question marks. What the heck's going on? Right? Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. We're almost done with the questions. And we'll try together. 2 more points. I said to you before that when Esau and Jacob were in the mother's womb, so when they walked by a house of Torah, a shul, so Jacob's like, get me out of here, right? And they walk by a house of idolatry, so Esau's like, get me out of here, I want to. And so Rivka didn't know what's going on, right? She thought her kid was schizophrenic, right? So she goes, you find out there's twins, and they each have 2 different paths. Now, is there something funny about that? We've heard these stories since we were kids, so we don't realize how bizarre a statement that is. That statement contradicts everything that is basic in Judaism. It contradicts every fundamental tenet of Judaism. Let me explain why. Because it's a principle. When a person is born, certain things may be decreed. How they'll look, and if they'll be rich, or who they're born to, and certain personality traits, certain things may be determined. One thing is clearly not determined. If you're going to be righteous or you're going to be evil. So how in the world does this make sense? The prophet says, this kid's not even born yet. He's in the mother's womb and he's like, yeah, give me a cheeseburger, man, I'll go serve some idols. Look at him, what is the guy wants to know about it? What are you doing to him? He's a poor little baby. What, he kind of with thorns on his head and a pitchfork? I don't get it. Who is this? Who is this kid? How could that be? The whole fundamental idea in Judaism is to have free will. And this kid, from the time he's in his mother's womb, is just like, it's just knocking down to go bow down to idols. It's bizarre. This contradicts the whole idea of free will. Free will, dude, it's terrible. Free will. Asa, what's going on? 2 last questions. So when it goes to the prophet says there's 2 nations in your womb. There's two great people. Now who would that be? Jacob and Esau. The Talmud says, no, it's not that. Who are the 2 great people in your womb? A rabbi called Rebbe, Yehuda Nasi, who wrote the Mishnah, and the Roman emperor. And the Talmud is called Antoninus, and he is none other than Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is we assume it's Marcus Aurelius, it seems to make sense. Marcus Aurelius, if you ever want to look in the Encyclopedia Britannica, under Roman emperors, most of them either married their horse, or some other farm animal, or played music while their city was burning. They were degenerates. They were really degenerates, the Roman emperors as a whole. This person, Marcus Aurelius, was a very, very righteous person. And he's brought down in the encyclopedia as a noble Roman emperor who had virtue, who was not into the crazy, crazy stuff. So somehow Rashi tells us these two nations inside, these two proud nations inside of her, inside the mother's womb, because the text says, it says proud nations. The text says proud. I was referring to these two people. Why didn't you say it's referring to Jacob and to Esau? Were you fast forwarding history getting here? And the last question is, this one. Trickery. Last question. Jacob is known as Ish Emes, man of truth. We talked about it in Shul last week, 2 weeks ago. Very bizarre how it works. Isaac says, "Who are you? Who are you?" And Rashi tells us that what Jacob answered was, "It is me, Kama, Esau, the eldest." That's honest, right? It's me, Esau the eldest. But what Jacob said, "It's me, Esau the eldest." That's not honest. If Jacob is the man of truth, how does he have to go and come to such trickery? That is the final question. And there's a lot of questions tonight, but this hopefully is going to open up an entire universe for us. Okay? Any more questions before we go on? Questions, comments, thoughts before we try to make some sense of it?
It wasn't really his choice to trick. It was his mother's.
Right. She always listens to your mother, right?
Yeah, right.
That's true, but he was an adult already. He sort of acquiesced to it, and he did it, and it's bizarre that Jacob, who's known to be the person of truth, has to go and to live his life this way. I mean, I'll ask the question another way. Let's say he listened to his mother, but why didn't Hashem arrange it? Let's say it's even the right thing. Why did Hashem arrange it that his whole foray into the world of becoming, the great man of truth is all around deceit? It's weird, right? But you're right. So there is some, because the mother said it was prophecy. That's all true. But he still had to go and do very, very funny stuff. And the truth is, that's where the world is today. I mean, you go listen to the news, and people will, they'll say, Israel is doing this and doing that. The whole world's upside down. The truth, people hide the truth all the time. So they say the people that are the ones who are being attacked are the aggressors. So Jacob is always viewing the world as the trickster, even though he's the man of truth. But the world sees it. He tricked you. He stole the blessing. Why did it come out that way? Okay. Well, any other thoughts or comments before we're going to put this? Tie all these, and I will answer all the questions down below. Yes?
Didn't they know that this kid was growing up rotten?
Yeah.
And didn't they do anything about it?
It's a good question. It's a good question. The way that the Talmud says it is that as they're growing up, they said, "Oh, this is just kid stuff, he likes catching animals, he likes biting rabbits' heads off, It's just kind of kid stuff,
A little rape here and there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, shooting BB guns at passing by cars. It's kid stuff, Like, you never throw a snowball at a car down. Come on, you grew up in New York.
Ice balls.
Ice balls. Now I'm throwing ice balls.
With a rock in the middle.
Yeah,
No,
that's
you don't
right.
need a rock. You just walk there.
So that's what they thought. They thought it's kid stuff. And then when he got older, they said, no, this is really real. This is what he's about. He's really not a good guy. That's what happened. They thought it was like sort of just kids play them. He's just a kid. Okay. All right. Let's try to understand this thing. There are different approaches in the world of how you can live your life. Okay? There's a verse that says, "Sur me'rav aseh tov." Move away from bad and go towards good. And in reality, there's different approaches in life. There are some people that like to move away from something bad. They'll desist from something not good, right? And some people like to go towards good, okay? And even when you're trying to, even in marketing, Don, we want to sell something. So you have to say to certain people, don't miss out on this sale, because they don't want to miss out. And there are those that have to say, it's your opportunity of a lifetime to get this sale. Right? Different mindsets. Some people move away from bad. They want to move away from things that are negative. And some people move towards the positive. And that really is two different approaches. Really, in terms of Torah, it represents there are negative commandments and positive commandments. Negative commandments means stay away from something bad, and positive means go towards something good. But even in people's approaches in life, there are certain people, when there's something negative, they want to go and remove the negative. And there are certain people that the way they will fight darkness is, instead of trying to fight the darkness, removing the evil, is to light a candle and do good. Okay? Two different approaches. Let me explain a little deeper. In the Garden of Eden, there were two trees in the middle. What are the two trees in the middle?
Life
The
and
tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's the same thing. There's two different approaches. The tree of life means that you're hooked into the positive life. Okay, you're hooked in with that spiritual world. Okay, if you eat the tree of life, they will live forever. It means that we're just tuned in to what is holy and powerful. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is where we are today, once Adam and Eve ate that. So what that means is that now you have a world that's all mixed up. Good and evil are mixed up together, and you have to go and you have to fight that. You got to go and deal with some bad things, and you have to go and remove those bad things. And you're involved in a world that's messy. So one scenario is the tree of life is you're secluded, you are in your own world, your own tree of life, you're sitting cloistered in your ivory tower and doing your spiritual things that are very, very powerful in the world. And one is, you're the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you got to deal with a messy, messy world. You got to remove evil from the world because evil is seeping in with the good. You can't tell what's what anymore. One more possible way to look at this. Internal and external. There are people who are very internal. They sort of their job is to stay focused on what they're doing and then maybe learning Torah someplace and doing their spiritual pursuits. And other people are out there in the fields. They're going and doing things. They can be doing very good things. But they're going and they're taking away evil and they're active in the world, activists for positive things. But one person is doing positive things by doing his spiritual work here in his own internal world. And one is positive by being an activist out in the world. Those are two different systems. Okay? Tree of knowledge of good and evil, external, moving away from evil, and moving towards good, internal, and the tree of life. Those are two systems. And that is really the idea of what Jacob and Esau could have represented. See, what happened was here is that Isaac thought, and the Medrash says this, the Medrash says that there could have been 12 tribes coming from Rivka, Rebecca, and from Isaac. The Jewish people could have come from who? Jacob and Esau. And that's exactly what Isaac wanted to do. He wanted to build a Jewish nation out of these two people. Okay? He knew Jacob was very, very spiritual and holy. He said, great, you'll do like the Jews did for thousands of years. We have Kohanim and Levites, and they would be involved in spiritual pursuits, and the rest of the Jews would do the work, and do the external work, and they would provide for these people who would sit and learn Torah and do the service in the temple. That was the relationship that Isaac was trying to create for Esau and for Jacob. He was trying to go and say, listen, Esau, you are a guy in the fields. You're a tree of knowledge of good and evil. You're going to get out there and you're going to fix the world up and you'll make a lot of money and you'll control the world and you'll master the things. You'll remove evil from the world. And your brother, Jacob, he's going to sit and do spiritual pursuits all day. And you'll support him. And you'll feed him, just like the Jews were feeding the Levites and the Kohanim. You'll do that, and together you'll be the great Jewish nation. That was Isaac's rationale. And that's why he wanted to keep Esau in. And after you understand that, you understand that there's two reasons why Isaac wanted to give the blessings to Esau. He knew who he was. First of all, he was a guy who said you have to earn it. And he said, first of all, Jacob could do it. Jacob's a very, very spiritual guy. Esau needs help. Esau's teetering. I gotta help him. But not only that, Esau's job is the physical world. The blessings I need to give him are the physical blessings of the world. That's not for Jacob. Jacob's sitting and learning all day. Esau is the one who needs the help, because he's teetering a little bit. He's not that spiritual being that Jacob is, but he's also the one that's to control the physical world. I gotta give him the blessings. Oh, question 1 answered. Why Esau the blessings? That's his job. Not your job. Why did he not save for Jacob? Because Jacob, it's not your role. It's not your job. Your job is to go and not be involved in the physical world. You'll sit and learn Torah cloistered away, model spiritual pursuits, and you don't need the physical world. I'm not making you a slave, you gotta bow down to Esau. What it means is, though, that Esau will be in charge of the world, and he will happily provide you with your portion. But that was wrong. Isaac did not know how far Esau had gone. That was revealed to Rivka in prophecy. And he was hoping still to make this combination happen. So that's why 1 happens and 2. So now Esau comes in and says, Daddy, you didn't give me any blessings? At that moment, he realized how far gone Esau is. Esau said, I sold my firstborn rights, and it's on for me. And the Medrash tells us that at that moment, Isaac had prophecy where he saw Gehenna, he saw the depths, hell, so to speak, opened up underneath Esau. He then got how far gone Esau had sold out. That's when he says, your brother stole the blessing, Gam Baruch Yeh, and he will be blessed. The blessing is his. Esau says, give me a blessing. He says, I can't give you a blessing, because I already gave everything to him. Please, please, please. So I can give you a blessing. You know what that was? The point of a blessing is not just to give you more money. The point of a blessing is that you could have a lot of physical things. If they're bad for you spiritually, that's not called a blessing. I always say Charles Lindbergh, who became very, very wealthy because he crossed the Atlantic, the worst thing happened to him was that his fame ended up causing that his only child got kidnapped and killed. His money and fame was the worst thing for him. That's not a blessing. So you can get physical things, if they lead to something spiritual, then it's good. So he says, I have no blessings to give you, because you sold out from the whole system. I was going to make you the one physical, and being an assistant to the spiritual. You sold out. Your brother's got both jobs now. He runs the physical and the spiritual. What can I do for you? You cut yourself out of the system. So he said, but Dad, you don't understand. I don't care about the spiritual system. I just want a good hamburger. I want a good steak. I don't give a darn about that. Just give me a blessing. Give me something physical. Yeah, the fat of the land's yours. You could have it. It's physical. It's not going to do anything for you, but that's what you want. I can give you that. But this Jewish people, you cut it yourself out of it. You're not in that. I don't care. I want food. I want wealth. Okay, you got it. That's the third one. And that's where the last blessing comes from. You know what the last blessing is? The last blessing, when Jacob is leaving, it's not that it was a new blessing all of a sudden. What happens is, that's the spiritual blessing you can't really give to anyone. When I give you a blessing, I can't say, give you a blessing, oh, you're going to be a righteous person. Because then you have no free will. I don't give you a blessing on your spiritual things. I give you a blessing that your physical surroundings should make it easier for you to make the right spiritual decisions. That's a blessing. I can't make a blessing, you're now a robot, you will do all the mitzvot. That's not a blessing, it's nothing. I give you a blessing that you should have, a settled mind, that you can choose the right things. When someone comes to you for charity, if you're all hassled, you say, I'm busy now. So if I give you a good, blessing that you'll have a good frame of mind, you could do positive things. But I can't give you a blessing on the spiritual. This last thing was not really a blessing. He was saying to him was, Jacob, now I understand the blessings which are the spiritual, real blessings. The first blessings were the physical ones. The spiritual blessings of Abraham, the land of Israel, the Jewish people, I know for sure now those are yours. Because that's who you are, I realize now. Those blessings are going to be yours. Okay, we've answered these 4 questions. Now, we come to the very, very messy question. Esau's free. Yeah.
So just clarification, number 4 is not, so it's not really a blessing?
It is a blessing, but he's saying it as a statement. He's not giving a blessing now, he's saying it as a statement. The blessing of God will bless you. God will bless you, because it's evident to me that now I see you're the one.
So it wasn't included in the prior...
Right, because the prior blessings were the physical blessings. Spiritual blessings, he was going to be the righteous one. He says that the facts are it's you. Now, this question was very hard. Esav. He was born red, it says. Nothing against redheads, I got a bunch myself, but the Talmud does say, it says that when David was born, they thought maybe he was going to be like Esau because he was all red. It says, but he had beautiful eyes, which is the Talmud's way of saying that his fiery personality was used to good. Esau was born red, and he wants just give me those lentils, the red stuff, and he was trying to come out and serve idols before he was even born. What's that about? Free will? It's a very, very amazing answer here. If you look at the text, it never said that Esav wanted to come out and go into a house of idolatry and bow down to the idols. It doesn't say that. It says he wanted to come out to go when he walked by a house of idolatry. He wanted to come out. You know why? That's after his free will. His free will would be either he would go out and serve the idols or he would destroy them. Because Esav's mission was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He had the potential to go out into the world and remove evil. That's who he was. If he used it for good, his free will, his ruddy complexion, his going and his fighting would be to fight for justice. Like King David. To fight for what's right. To remove idolatry from the world. That's who he was. If he uses it improperly, he bows down to the idols. And that's really why here, when Rashi says that the two great people in the womb is Rebbe and Antoninus, you know what this was? This guy, Marcus Aurelius, this Roman emperor, was actually a student of Rabbi Yehuda Nassi's. He was a student. That's why he was such a righteous Roman person. People didn't realize it. He had a secret tunnel, the Talmud says. He used to go and he used to learn with Rabbi Yehuda Nassi. And historically, this is why Rabbi Yehuda Nassi wrote the Mishnah. The Mishnah, which is the foundation of the oral Torah, was written in the middle of the Roman persecution. How did that happen? The Romans are killing us left and right, and all of a sudden there's this one respite of time where the rabbis are given this ability to sit there and to gather all the sages together and write the text and make sure everything is correct. You know why? Because God arranged it that the emperor was going to be not only the friend but the student of this rabbi. And historically, there was a period of time where there was a respite from the persecution of the Romans. And if you look at your last source, an amazing thing, last source has that when Antoninus was learned by Rebbe, it says that at night, when Rebbe would want to go to his bed, so Antoninus the king, Marcus Aurelius, would bend over and say, "Step on my back and climb up into your bed." And Rebbe would say, "I can't do it, you're the king, it's not right." He says, "I wish I could be your support beneath you in the world to come." Why is this brought here? Because this is the potential epitome of the relationship between Esav and Yaakov. This is what it should have been. The Roman Empire, which was called the Holy Roman Empire, which was never too holy, it could have been the Holy Roman Empire. What it would have been, imagine that world. What could have been, if Isaac's vision would have been correct, that these Romans who are controlling it would be Jews. They'd be the ones who'd be out in the world, not going with gladiators killing each other, but going from person to person saying, "Listen, you have to act righteously, we are in control, we're the Roman Empire, and this is the way you have to act." That was Esav, and it could have been part of the Jewish people. And that was the marriage between Esav and Yaakov. Amazing. And the last question. Now this is fantastic. Listen to this one thing. You know why? Even though Yaakov said, "It's me, comma, Esav is your eldest," he tried to say it in that way, the deeper meaning is he never lied. You know why? Because at that moment, he became Esav. He really was Esav. He had taken Esav's job in life. Isaac didn't know it. But now the Jewish people, which were going to be this Esav and Yaakov combination, and Esav sold out, Yaakov now had two jobs. He was going to be Jacob, sitting and learning Torah, the spiritual side, and it was also now going to be Esav's job of going out and straightening the world out. He had to do both. So he says, "I am Esav." It was true. Not only that. You ever wonder, Yaakov had how many wives? Who was his main wives first? Because that one's another story. But who are his wives? He married first Rachel, Rachel, and then he married Leah. He wanted to marry Rachel, and then he switched and he had Leah. Right. So he married Leah and Rachel. Now, there's a little problem with that. What's the problem with that?
Sisters.
Yeah, sisters. Can't do it. Sorry, it's against Torah. It's forbidden. Right? How did Yaakov go and marry two sisters? It's against the Torah. You can't marry two sisters. As long as they're alive, you can't marry two sisters. It's forbidden. It's one of the errors. It's one of the forbidden relationships. So, anyone have an answer to that question? Should have bothered us for all this time.
Well, he was two people now.
That's the deeper answer. The deeper answer. So, this is how you understand this. This is an amazing thing. The Kabbalists say, Nefesh Chaim says, that before the Torah was commanded, so what happened was the sages would go, the forefathers kept the Torah, but from their own free will. They would see that if we did these things, it would fix up the spiritual worlds. And so they kept the Torah, but they weren't obligated. They kept it because they knew it was the right thing. Yaakov, he says, sees in the future that the Jewish nation comes from Rachel and from Leah. He knows that's the situation, so he marries the two of them. That's what the book Nefesh Chaim says. So in years when I was in Yeshiva, my learning partner said to me, it's impossible. It makes no sense. How could that be? How could it be that to go to fix the world, he has to do something that's against the Torah, even if it's on his own free will? And now we can say a very, very deep answer tonight. Because what happened was, the system of the world was dependent on everyone's free will. So they would look into the world before the Torah was given. They had the ability to go to not to keep the Torah because it wasn't commanded yet, but they did it. In the deeper scenario, Esav was supposed to marry who? Leah. And Yaakov was supposed to marry Rachel. And what happened was, Esav sold out of his purpose. And there was Leah. And her soulmate becomes a bum. And that's what it says. It says the eyes of Leah were soft because she was crying. Why is she crying? She said, I don't want to marry Esav. Esav's a terrible person. Who said you have to marry Esav? Who told you you have to marry Esav? What are you crying about, lady? Stop crying. The answer was she knew. She knew that potentially the soulmate that she was supposed to have would have been Esav. And that's why Yaakov wanted to marry Rachel, because that was really his original soulmate, in that sense. When Esav doesn't do his job, Yaakov becomes Esav, and he also has to take his soulmate. And that's why he marries Leah too. And that becomes the Jewish nation. That's how Esav goes and does not use his free will to become what he could become, and he's off the system. And Yaakov has the entire job on his own. Takes on all the work of Esav plus his own work. Questions, thoughts, comments?
So that's a justification for having two wives? I mean,
Yeah, well,
it's still against.
Yeah, it goes in combination with the fact that before the Torah was given, they weren't obligated to. The question was, though, even though they weren't obligated, why wouldn't they? In every situation, they kept the Torah because it was the right thing to do. So just because they're not obligated, why would you have to go outside the system? And the answer is because until the world came onto its solid ground, the Torah was given, so there was the world was going to be formed based on people's free will, and if Esav would have become that, things would have been different. Which is why the Talmud to this day calls Esav Yisrael Mumer. The Talmud doesn't refer to Esav the same way it does by Yishmael. Yishmael is the father of the Arab people. It's not called Jewish in any way. Esav, the Talmud refers to him as a Jewish heretic. They refer to him because he had a certain potential. He had with the spark. It says he had and the Kabbalah says he had a spark of holiness in his mouth, in his head, and that's why his head gets buried in the Maaseh Machpelah, only his head, not the rest of him, because the rest of that holiness did not extend to him. Just a little bit, it stayed in his head, and the story is when they bury Jacob, so there's a whole fight breaks out, and then Esav gets his head chopped off, and his head gets buried in the cave of the patriarchs, because his head was where he had some part of holiness. He didn't let the whole thing come into his being. So at that stage of history, the potential was still being formed, the Torah wasn't commanded, so the option was, if somebody would misuse their free will and create a whole different dimension, that Yaakov could see that and then marry the two sisters. Yeah.
This may be a bit of a strange question, but if Hashem made the world, Hashem made the world,
Right.
and everything was predestined to be a certain way,
Right.
how then do you explain this kind of situation, which is not what was intended? You said this is what was intended, but if that was what was intended, then that's what should have been.
Right.
So how do you explain this whole scenario if that was what was intended originally?
Right. It's a very good question. It's not a, well, that's the question. The question is, though, this question is obviously, it's a chapter I'm writing right now in the book, by the way.
It's a perplexing question.
Yeah, it's a very pleasant question. So I'm trying to see how to take this here, because there's different levels to this question. The one level of the question is that if God knows what I'm going to do, how do I have free will? In other words, if God knows right now that I'm going to pick up this wallet in 5 seconds, then I have no choice, because He knows I'm going to do it. 3, 2, 1, I had to do it. He knows I'm going to do it. So one question is, how does God know you're going to do something, and yet I still have free will? That's one kind of question. And then the second kind of question is a little bit different, which is what you're asking is if God has a plan for something, right? He determined a plan for this, how can you still have free will? And how can you do other than that? So I was saying you have free will, but how could you do other than what God wants, right? Right? If He has a plan, He wants things to play out this way, and you can't do against it, so you don't have free will then. But if you have free will, you can do against it, it's not going to be the plan that He wants. So I'll give you a little analogy. Imagine that you are the governor of a city, and you're very powerful. You're actually a omnipotent governor. And you are the governor of this town, and you go and you say, the goal of this town is that I want everyone to take a parcel of land. You have 3 parcels of land, 3 people, and I want you to help the economy in this town. I want you to do something on your lands that can help the economy tremendously. My goal is, as the governor, is that the economy here should be fantastic, and you 3 people are in charge of this mission to go and to make the economy grow. Okay, person number 1, bachelor number 1, goes and he plants on the land, and he grows things, and he becomes a farmer, and it does very, very well. Good. Bachelor number 2. He goes and he brings in sheep and cattle, and he raises them on the land, and he becomes very, very wealthy, and he helps the economy of the town with that. Bachelor number 3 says, I don't want any of this. I'm not helping the economy at all. I'm not going to do that. He takes a pickaxe, and he smashes the land, destroys it. Just keeps smashing it, and just tearing it apart, and putting holes throughout the land. He says, see, that governor is going to make me go and make this place wealthy. Destroys it. Now, if the governor is really omnipotent, what he could do is, he can make it that as the guy is smashing the land, destroying it, what happens? He hits oil. Now, all 3 people have now fit into this omnipotent governor's plan, because they've all now have increased the wealth of his town. But bachelor number 1 and 2 get reward for it, because they did it in a system that they chose to do that. Person number 3, because their plan was to go against it, but the omnipotent source was able to move it that it gets to his goals, doesn't mean he participated in that. His free will is to do the opposite. So the answer to your question is a lot of different levels. Well, one level is that God could bring the things in many, many systems. That's one way I gave you an example. Or even if Asaph sells out, then it could be this way. It's like if you play chess. If you play chess against the computer, so the computer is good enough, but every move you make has every amount of responses to still win the game. God has infinite amount. So whatever you do, the response always going to be, the hashgacha that's going to be, is still going to get the world where God wants it to go. But you still have free will. He can still make it that you have free will, you've done what you want to do, but he still gets to where he wants to go in one analogy or other. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. One more. Yeah.
If Yitzhak had prophecy are we forced to say that he knew that all of this was going to unfold this way, or was his prophecy in some way defective?
Okay.
You know, it's sort of a limited prophecy, so to speak.
Okay, that's a good question. Good question. Prophecy means that when God communicates certain things with you, then you know those things. Doesn't mean you know everything. So, but what was bizarre to us was that an insightful person and a prophet would be so in the dark. The answer we said was he wasn't in the dark. He really knew very, very well. But there was a certain aspect that was hidden from him, and the Zohar says it was hidden from him on purpose. That God wanted to put him through a test also. Because Isaac went through a very big test himself. Because in the end, Isaac would say, I don't want to give the blessing to Jacob, because he should earn it. That was his philosophy. Esau needs help. I'll help him out. But I'm going to give Jacob help? No, he should earn it himself. It's better. And that was his philosophy in life. And God made it that Isaac went through a big test himself. That he had to now go and say that, you know what? God wants it to be this way. I don't understand. But God wants to bless it. To give Jacob some help, I'll do that also. So the answer is that God hid a certain amount of this knowledge from Isaac to let it unfold in this way. And then once it played out that way, then Isaac had to use it, go with it also. But he hid it from him until that later point. Because he wanted it to come into a test for Isaac. I have Nia had a hand. Nia, you have a question?
No.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what my question is here, but I just, with Rachel and Leah, if Yaakov really, if his planned soulmate was supposed to be Rachel, which called maybe his then primary soulmate, yet she's not the one that got, she wasn't really the eternal soulmate in terms of being buried next to him in the cave of Machpelah. What is it trying to say something about Leah, or what Leah represented in terms of Esau's soulmate? I'm not sure if there's something there.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. But again, but even though I said it in this way, I have to realize in the end, Leah and Rachel are the Jewish people from Leah and Rachel. So Leah is it's not like it's a de facto in the sense that now they say it's the reality. Leah is who she is. But Leah and Rachel represent different concepts. And that's why Leah, in her marriage to Yaakov, is buried in Maras Machpelah, while Rachel's job was to be buried in the open space, because each Rachel and Leah had a different job even in this world. And Rachel Rachel has to do with how the world should look. Which is why Yaakov wanted to marry Rachel. He wanted his kids to look a certain way. We're going to talk about one of those sessions we do. Leah is a certain more hidden world also. She's therefore buried in Maras Machpelah with Yaakov hidden away. But they both